Hi everyone, Matt here, and today I am going to share with you the most powerful deck in Standard, Yorion Firewalkers. I have been playing this on the ladder, played it up to Mythic, and it is incredible. It is all based around Yorion as a companion. Yorion requires you to have 20 more cards in your starting deck than the minimum allowed, so we have an 80 card deck here. But when you play Yorion, you get to exile any number of target non-land permanents you control and return them to the battlefield during your next end step. The amount of broken things you can do with this is off the charts, and this deck kind of abuses the interaction between Yorion, Fires of Invention, and Planeswalkers to get maximum value. So I want to talk a little bit about how some of these synergies work. The first thing I want to bring up is the 4 Fae of Wishes. One of the biggest drawbacks to Yorion is not that you have to have an 80 card starting deck, but rather that when you need to sideboard cards in for matchups, you're less likely to find those sideboard cards because they're diluted within those 80 that you have, so you're less likely to get them in your starting hand, less likely to see them in general. So instead of traditionally sideboarding, we're going to use this as a wish board as a way to sort of negate that downside of Yorion. And Fae of Wishes, Fires of Invention works really well together, as you can play Granted and then play just about whatever you want from your wish board. So we'll get to that wish board in a little bit. The next thing I want to address is the 3 mana Planeswalkers. We are playing the full 4 copies of Narset and Teferi. So one of the really cool things with Yorion is that you can use the Planeswalker minus abilities and then reset their loyalty by blinking them effectively with Yorion on turn 5. So if you imagine playing a Narset on turn 3, you can get 2 -2 activations out of it and then reset it all the way back up to 5 after playing Yorion. Now, the really cool stuff though comes into play with Fires of Invention. So a typical turn 4 might be playing Fires and then either one of your 3 mana Planeswalkers or an Atris or Narset. And then on your next turn, if you play a land, you can play one of your really powerful 5 mana spells, let's say Nicol Bolas. Then you can play Yorion, exiling Fires of Invention and any number of value permanents like Oath of Kaya or Omen of the Sea. And then you can actually spend your mana to cast additional spells, since the 2 spell per turn restriction is off the table while Fires is exiled. So turn 5 often results in you playing 3 5 mana worth of spells combinations and really just running away with the game. Another fun new addition from Ikoria is Shark Typhoon, and both modes of this are very relevant. One thing that I've been amazed at is how good this is at smoothing your draw. I have cycled this for a 0/0 flying shark so often, and it has allowed me to keep opening hands with just 2 lands that I would not otherwise be able to keep. So Shark Typhoon has been a really great role player in this deck, as well as a way to run away with the game. If you do actually play this out, you start making 5 or 6/6 sharks each turn when you're playing multiple spells with Fires of Invention, and you just run away with the game that way. But don't be afraid to cycle this for simply 1 and a blue. Oftentimes smoothing your draw with this is exactly what you want to do. And the sideboard. So I mentioned that we aren't going to be sideboarding traditionally with this deck, partially for the aforementioned reason of those cards being diluted in your 80 card pool. So we're going to be using this as a wish board. Sideboarding with this deck is incredibly simple. I'm going to explain to you how to do it right now. Either you're bringing in 3 Mystical Disputes, usually cutting 2 Cry of the Carnarium and a Shatter of the Sky, or you sideboard nothing. The reason is you're much more likely to find the single copy of these spells using the 4 Fae of Wishes in the deck than you are to find them if you actually bring them into the main deck. So typically you are not sideboarding at all. Or, if Mystical Dispute is good in the matchup, you bring in all 3 copies, and you side out dead cards like Cry of the Carnarium and Shatter of the Sky. Now, some of the really great tools that you get access to. Thought Distortion, fantastic in matches like Temur Reclamation, another top deck in the format. We have multiple additional sweepers in Storm's Wrath and Time Wipe. Time Wipe, resetting a Yorion turn and getting even more value is a really fun play to make. You've got another Nicol Bolas. And then at the top end here, once you get up to 6 or 7 mana and have fires available, you get not only Casualties of War, but now there are 3 ultimatums that are incredibly impactful. The one that I've seen swing games the most is actually Ruinous Ultimatum. You can hardcast this as well. If the game's just going long and you happen to find a Fae of Wishes, we have the mana to hardcast this one, but a one-sided planar cleansing is pretty unfair. We also have Eerie Ultimatum. Again, in a long game, the ability to just bring back all of your really powerful permanent spells from your graveyard can totally swing the game. And then Inspired Ultimatum, if you are running out of gas a little bit, or you need to deal with a single Planeswalker and draw some additional cards. These ultimatums have overperformed in huge ways, so I highly recommend getting these into the sideboard. And if you've played Temur Adventures, you might think of cards like Once in Future or Plane-Wide Celebration. Essentially, these ultimatums are just much better versions of those cards, so I highly recommend using those instead. And yeah, that is the overview of the Yorion Firewalkers deck. I hope you try it out. It is not only incredibly powerful, but a lot of fun to play. And I will see you in the next video for some gameplay on the Mythic Ladder. Take care.